A trend that has been brewing for years in corporate meeting rooms may be about to spill over. We'll call it digital distraction. The Wall Street Journal is saying chief executives like Jamie Dimon and Airbnb's Brian Chesky have had it to here with meetings filled with distracted employees. People are texting and scrolling on their phones and reading email on their tablets during meetings, basically being present physically but not mentally. Some companies are blocking Wi-Fi or fining people to keep their meetings focused. Here's a social media dramatization of what they're talking about.
Okay, let's start our way through the agenda. First, will everyone have their weekly reports by the end of the week? Amy?
Huh?
Your quarterly report, will you have that by the end of the week?
Yeah, definitely.
It's also me talking with my children.
Right, exactly.
At night.
Oh, yes.
With us now to talk about digital distractions at work meetings is Connecting America's psychologist, Dr. Jeffrey Gardere. Good to see you, sir. Look, I am the wrong guy to be talking about this. I am the most distracted person on the planet, or maybe I'm the right person for that meetings. How big an issue is this societally and professionally?
Well, what we're seeing is just as that dramatization showed there, that it is distracting a lot of workers from being focused on what it is that they need to do. And that equals disrespect to the people who are running the meetings. But even worse, Dave, what we're seeing is the leaders themselves are not putting down their phones. And when they do that, they are modeling to their workers that they don't perhaps really focus the way that they need to. So this is not really about our devices. It's about our relationships with devices and what we need to do in order to have more efficiency and focus in our business meetings at school. We've talked about this before, right? When we put those phones away, as Karen said, we put them in those little bags and stock them away for the day, that we see much more focus in the students, much more of the personal interactions, and we can equate the same thing at the workplace.
So I was going to ask you, if we're seeing school districts having the kids put the phones into the pouches, are we going to start seeing this as policy at corporations?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. We're dealing with adults here, and I think they'd be very offended by it. But I think what the move needs to be is, again, the leaders need to demonstrate how to have proper etiquette in the office, and as well give reinforcement for people who actually put their phones down. And so we can work on a level of honor. We're asking you in our meetings to turn your phones, off, or to shut off your devices. We hope that you will do this. And if you don't do it, there may be repercussions later on.
Yeah. And, it is just very off-putting when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and they're not even looking you in the eye. They don't look you in the eye, like from the time you get into like the workspace, not YouTube. I'm not talking about YouTube, but I'm just saying, I've been to meetings, or even let's say you're going up to a counter to buy something, or, at a medical office, and people aren't even looking up at you to acknowledge you. I mean, it is very dehumanizing. It doesn't feel good. And I really have been trying to be more mindful about that, of when somebody walks in the door. I say to my kids, when we walk in the door, can you at least look up for 1 second and say hello?
Well,
and go ahead.
But Dave calls it multitasking. That's what he says he's doing. Is that effective? Is that real? Can you multitask?
Well, two things. First off, psychologically, full presence equals respect. And so when you walk into the pharmacy or a store and someone doesn't look at you, well, what they're really saying is you're not worth my full attention.
Right.
And over time, that really does spell out that you're not interested in what your customer has to say. And the same thing at the office. It means less trust and collaboration at the office. For Dave, we know Dave is a very informed individual. So I think he makes up for that, multitasking. But at the end of the day, what scientists show, neuroscience shows, is that multitasking is really task switching. And so when you do that, you lose up to 40% of your efficiency. So
Right.
what I would recommend for folks, not necessarily Dave, because he's got his stuff down, is that serial tasking is better. Find 3 things that you want to do, but put your full attention to the first one, then to the second one, then to the third one, instead of switching back and forth to all 3.
Yeah, I've heard that called task stacking. So instead of multitasking,
Exactly.
you're trying to stack tasks that are similar, so you can just get this one done. Get almost like when you're working in the kitchen.
I'm writing these down for you, Dave.
Listen, I'm paying a lot of attention. I fully acknowledge I am the test case for this. It is a real problem. I just wonder how it affects rapport around an office. I mean, we're not obviously in a traditional office, but most Americans are. How does
We're
it
in a
impact
diner.
rapport? And maybe they offer this as kind of a challenge to make everyone happier and more engaged.
Well, first of all, if we're living in glass houses, let's not throw any stones, and that includes yours truly, Dr. Jeff. We all, to some extent, do this thing of maybe checking our phones during meetings and so on. Of course, here at Connecting America, we need to do that in order to get your information to give to our viewers. But Dave, directly to you, in talking about this and answering Jim's question, is what we tend to see at the office is what we call attention debt. In other words, chronic distraction will lead to morale drops, misunderstandings grow, people feel unseen. And so what ends up happening is that we have much less efficiency in the particular office. So that's why it's important to be present at all times, both leaders and people who are part of the meetings, because we want to improve our communication, our creativity, and we all want to feel respected at the office.
You know what I also find interesting is if one person has their device, you kind of start being like, oh shoot, am I missing some? Should I be looking at mine as well?
no.
When nobody's there, it's much easier to get a group of people engaged. It's almost like a social contagion. If he's looking at his computer, I feel like I should be looking at mine, and Dave, looking at
Well,
his device.
but that's why these tech titans are saying things like, you know what? This is a real problem with our workers. But guess where it begins? It begins with us as the leaders. We have to set the tone and put our phones down in order to get everyone else to do the same thing. And it's a real challenge for each and every one of us. But the more we try to get away from that addiction of checking our phones every few minutes, the better it becomes for us as far as respect to others and more focus on the things that are right in front of us.
All right, I'm putting this down.
Dr. Jeff, we respect you and appreciate you helping us with this issue that clearly we have at the table right here.
I'm going back to the old-fashioned pen and paper.
There you go.
I have
There
that
you go.
too.
All right.
Thanks, Dr. Jeff.